Yep, all done. Go for it.
Right. Okay, guys, so welcome to the webinar. This is about the new you. So today we're going to look forward. We're going to look forward at your future. What can we do today and moving forwards to make your life amazing? So before we have looked into behavior a little bit to help us understand the forces that are against us, our chimp brain, and before that we looked at reconnecting to the true you to make sure you're following your passions, and today we're going to look more forward thinking. So just a reminder for the rules of engagement: please keep an open mind. It's like if you've got a new sweater given to you, try it on. If you don't like it, you can always take it off, but at least try it on. If your cup's already full, then there's no room for anything new. So sometimes, to move forward, we need to challenge old beliefs and old habits, old patterns, and be open to something new. So please keep your mind open. Please participate. For those of you who come on the webinar with me regularly, you'll know I ask for a lot of feedback, because if you're engaging your brain and typing in the chat box and going through this process throughout the webinar, the learning you'll get will be way deeper. So please participate. And finally, if it barks or meows or cries, then chuck it under the stairs. And if it beeps or buzzes, please turn it off. Give yourself the gift of presence. Give yourself the gift of focusing on this. Okay, so let's get cracking, shall we? So we're going to go through three major parts today. Okay, so the intention is, in the first part, we're going to look at what do you have to do to be successful. Yes, that's a big question. We're going to do my best to answer that, and you're going to help answer that yourselves. So as a group, we're going to come up with the answers for that. So what do you have to do to be successful? What do you have to do daily to be successful? And then thirdly, how do we turn these into habits? Because it's all well and good going on a crash diet to lose some weight, but we all know that the key to prolonged health, for example, is to do consistent things on a daily basis and create healthy eating habits, in the example of health. Right? So how do we turn things into habits so that they're not chores, but they just become part of who we are? So those are three sections we're going to go through today. So here we go. Before I go on, I just need us to go into this with a certain mindset. Okay, I said earlier that if your cup's already full, there's no space for anything new. But equally, we need to go into this believing and understanding that the life you have today is a result of the decisions you have made and the actions you have taken on a daily basis. Okay? So that can be quite confronting when somebody first, I used to be incredibly stubborn. I'm sure Dan will say I probably still am, but I used to be very stubborn, and I used to be very defensive because I had a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. So whenever I got feedback, or whenever I got, criticism, instantly my wall would go up, and I'd just be incredibly defensive because I felt it was an attack on me as a person rather than my behavior. Because if you believe that talent is inbuilt and you have a fixed mindset, then you believe inherently that there's nothing you can do about that. Whereas if you have a growth mindset, which is what I've educated myself to have now, you understand that feedback is just feedback's the breakfast of champions. But when I first sort of was told that this is about you, I'm like, no, nonsense. It's not just about me. What are you talking about? What about the government? What about people? I went for that job and I didn't get it. That's their fault. And I had so many excuses. But it was only until I got to that moment that I just went, do you know what, hands up. Maybe school didn't arm us with what we needed to learn to be successful in life. Well, just categorically they say it didn't. But it may not have been my fault, my upbringing in the nicest possible way, or what shaped me, but it is my responsibility moving forwards to become the person I want to be. But you have to take that decision and make that understanding that you are where you are because of what you've done and the decisions you've made. So just to add to that, we can either be a victim or we can be a victor. So some of you have heard this, we term it living above the line or living above, below the line. Do you know some of these people who are always victims, right? They're always in blame, excuses, and denial. They're in bed. Yeah, and if you're in the victor part up top, you've got an oar, so you can steer your ship, steer your kayak. But you've met those people, they're always blaming others, they're always making excuses, they're always in denial. Yes, this used to be me in my early 20s because I dropped out of uni and had no answers for how to actually be successful in life. So the only obvious solution was to blame others. And well, it's just the government, it's the school system, it's, this person who didn't employ me. But have any of you met a successful victim? Like, I've never met a successful victim. Those people that come across and they're always complaining, or they're always down, or like there's always a, oh yeah, but this, oh yeah, but that. It's just draining, right? It's because they're in victim, and there's no such thing as a successful victim. So I use these three prompts on the right to help me to take full responsibility for what I do. This was taught to me a few years back. And I think we understand the first part, that, yeah, your life will be a result of what you choose to do. Did you choose to get into that relationship? Did you choose to buy this house? Did you choose to take that job? Did you choose to buy the flat screen TV? Did you choose to spend your savings on a Porsche? Whatever, right? Your life will be a result of what you choose to do. Most people get that. The bit they don't understand as well is that your life is also a result of what you choose not to do. So by staying, for example, in the same job, that's a choice. It might be an unconscious choice, but it's still a choice. And these decisions are harder to identify. But whatever we choose not to do, we choose not to go to the gym, that's a choice. So we're often making mistakes around not choosing something. And then the third part, which is probably the hardest to admit, I would say, is that we actually choose how to react what happens to us. And that's really, really key. Because if we're in victim mentality, then we can get that tendency when something bad happens to us, and something bad happens to all of us at some stage. I remember running an event in Australia with 50 business owners, and the question was asked, who here has gone through some form of personal tragedy? And 48 out of the 50 people put their hands up. And it was almost a bit of a relief for people looking around the room to see, oh God, I'm not the only one that's been through something bad, And so we have to take full responsibility to choose how we react to it. We can choose to go in a downward spiral, or we can choose to rise up. So that's just some priming and some positioning for what we're going to go through next. So just type quickly in the chat box for me, because we've got a bunch of new people have jumped on. So just jump in there, type in the chat box for me, what's a great choice you've made recently? What's a great choice you've made to grow, further your life recently? Let's keep it the last 3 to 6 months. Type in the chat box, and we'll give you all some congrats. So type it in for us, guys, and then over to you, Dan.
Fantastic. So I was going to say, while we wait for those people to pop in a few things, I'm happy to say that one of the things I've cut out recently, one of the decisions that I've made, is to cut out pasta, which has been very difficult, but made a big difference to everything that I've done, health-wise.
Great.
Yeah. Little thing.
Great. Incremental gains.
Yeah. So here we go. So we straight away, Lyndon's come straight in to say to attend the Andy Harrington live Power to Achieve event. Fantastic. Charlie's come in, committed to being focused and disciplined on my work without distraction. Hello, Steve. Good to see you here. Steve's come in, project management. Thank you very much, Steve. And Nicola, welcome, Nicola. Joining the Hive. Good to hear that's been positive for you. And we've got one more last one to read out. Decided to join Podhive. Blake to help me.
Hooray! Good. Cool. All right, so a few more there, but let's move on. Right, good. So we're in 100% responsibility, right? And we're open to some new activities and new things to take us to new places. So what do we have to, the question I asked earlier is what do we have to do to be successful? And it was actually a bit of a quick trick question, because that tends to be the question that people ask. What have I got to do to get a result? You know, what have I got to do to have that? What do I have to do to get the Porsche? What do I have to do to get the promotion? And see, there's a level way deeper than that is far more important than the do side of things, and that's the being. Who do I need to be, or who do I need to become, and then what do I need to do to have the outcome I want? Okay, so that's what we're going to dig into a little bit now. And it's a concept that I feel takes a little bit of time to get our heads around, but who do we have to be? Who do we have to become to do the things we need to do to have what we truly want? Okay, I had a coaching session with my coach. I used to trade a bit of coaching with a guy called Troy, and he was doing an alignment session with me, and he was like, okay, so tell me what you've got in your plan for the next 90 days. I said, okay, well, I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. And he just stopped me. And he said, Blake, I'm hearing a lot of do, but I'm not hearing a lot of being. You know, at the end of the day, we are a human being, not a human doing. So we have to choose who we want to show up as on a daily basis. So let's look into that with a bit more of an example. So this is an example I heard from a guy called Darren Hardy. So Darren Hardy is the author of a book called The Compound Effect, but he's also the owner and director, I guess, the owner and CEO of Success Magazine. It's a great book, actually, and actually very topical for what we're going to go through in a little bit. But he talks about how he met his wife. Right now, think of the first question of what do I have to do to have a woman like that? Right? What do I have to do to have a woman like that? He asked the question, who do I have to become? And what do I have to do to, you know, find a wife like that? So the first step he did is he took a journal and he described his ideal woman, his ideal wife, right? You know, and he just wrote out a whole journal describing her characteristics and her traits and getting clear on that. He then asked the question, okay, well, if that's what I want, if that's who I want to be with a person like that, what type of a man would she attract? You know, if I were to picture the guy that would be married to a woman like that, what would he be like? You know, what would he be like? What would his characteristics be like? What would his actions be like? What would his be and his do be, right? Do be. And so he then wrote a whole list of what he guessed of what type of man a woman like that would be interested in. And then he worked out what the gap was. What was the gap between who he was at that point to the type of man he needed to become? So he then got clear on who do I need to become to be the kind of guy that would attract that kind of lady. Does that make sense?
Blake, if I might interrupt here, it does actually, talking about this, it does remind me when you told me about your perfect wife. I believe a few of her characteristics and traits. Was it low standards, loose morals, poor eyesight, and what was the last thing? Oh yeah, large pair of heron ducks.
Yeah,
that was it.
Those are top four. Top four, good examples. So now I know, you know, now I'm clear on that. I know what sort of man. Unfortunately, it's not much of a man that I need to become. So I'm all right.
You're there.
Cool. So if that's just an example, but what if we looked at it this way, right? So that's how to find the perfect wife, but surely we can use that to ask how to find the perfect life. So I find a lot of people may not be 100% clear on what they want in life, but they know what they don't want, and they're pretty clear on a lot of stuff that they want. But then they ask the question, what do I need to do to have that? But isn't it a better question, who do I need to become to be that person that is deserving and attracts that type of life? It would be like me looking at, say, a multimillionaire, not that the money is the only thing, but somebody, you know, a multimillionaire in a very senior job with lots of responsibility, who's well loved by his family and his colleagues, and he invests a lot of time and effort into his staff. Now imagine looking at a guy like that going, but sat on your sofa with a tub of ice cream, a massive debt in the bank because you spent it on the 70-inch TV sitting in front of you. I know that's a bit of an extreme example, but I feel it's those people sitting on the TV who've spent a lot of money on technology and buying stuff, and eating poorly and having poor mindset and complaining and just living below the line. What is it that they, when they look at super successful people, what is it that they say about them? Type in the chat box, what are some of the beliefs they have about successful people? What are some of the things they say about successful people? Type in the chat box, let's see what pops in. Yes, thank you, Lyndon. No change for Blake then, he says, about my list of requirements. Okay, good. Couple of those, Dan? What
Yeah,
we've got coming through?
We've got they're lucky. That's a very common one. I'm seeing that coming through from quite a few people already. I think most people like in that position would have that assumption that they've got there through luck or their family were wealthy, inheritance, this sort of thing. They must have been dishonest to be able to achieve that. Thank you there from Karen. That's pretty much what we've got. Yeah.
Shit always happens to me. That's what Lyndon says. Absolutely. That's the sort of belief system of somebody sitting on a couch, right? They're victim mentality, not victor. Okay, so if we now understand this concept, right, of focusing more on who we need to be as well as what we need to do, but the B has to come first. Let's work out what that is for us. So here's a beautiful, this is a piece of artwork done by a half British, half Belgian artist, and this is actually I drew this like 3 years ago for a client called Dean in Australia. Dean still has this up on his room, on his wall, I'll have you know, Dan. This is actually a piece of artwork in art with a silent F. And this is just another representation of helping people to understand where be, do, and have sit. See, we look at the successful person and we look at what people have, right? You know, that we see their behavior, the part that we see of people, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So then we've got to look deeper to understand what is it that created that result? What is it that created that outcome? So in here you see you have to be and you have to do before you can have. So as part of the be part, it's what's our identity? What are our beliefs? In the do part, we've got what are our values and what are our skills? What are the things we actually do in life? And if you really want to focus on ramping up your B, which is, you know, we'll come on to a few more specifics in a bit, but the biggest impact on that is your environment. Okay, you've heard before, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. What if you lived in a house which was always disorganized, right? What if your environment had negative artwork on the wall? I know that seems a little bit woo-woo, but you know, everything around us, our environment impacts us hugely. You know, if you hang around with positive people, successful people, your identity will shift to match them. Likewise, if we hang around with negative people, you know, like, and for those of you as parents out there, you know this, right? You say you don't want your kids hanging around with the wrong crowd, right? Because you know how much they influence, how much that influences them. So why is that any different to us as adults? You know, how conscious are you of who you spend time with and how you spend time with them? You know, for me, the easiest way I find to shift my environment is I listen to audio books. Okay, so when I have sort of net time, which means no extra time, like I'm in the car or I'm at the gym or maybe I'm cooking, you know, I found that spare time where I can sort of multitask. I hang out with the world's greatest people. I hang out with Richard Branson. I hang out with Darren Hardy. I hang out with Dan Harrison. There you go, Dan. So the environment has a huge impact on who we become. So I would love to offer you copies of my artwork, but it is a limited edition, limited talent. Okay, so type in the chat box. What's been most valuable so far? What's been most valuable so far? What have you picked up so far? What about you, Dan? What have you picked up so far? What are the bits that sort of, I know you've been through all this before, but what are the bits that have always resonated with you? Anything about the being, the identity, the iceberg? Type in the chat box, guys.
Yeah, for me personally, it's got to be the be, do, have. I think exactly as you say, everybody believes you've got to do something to get what you want, but by being that, reflected in the iceberg, animation, masterpiece, whatever you want to call it. Oh, there you go. Margaret agrees with your Picasso picture. That's what she's most valuable.
Yeah, not sure that's Picasso always painted wonky stuff, didn't he? I'm sure that's a compliment.
So yeah, so that to me, that I find that the most interesting.
Can you make sure you read out Steve's for us, please?
I'm just getting to Barty's just joined us, so nice to have you on here, Barty. You are like a mirage. What's on the inside shows on the outside. Very deep. I like it. Let me see if I can find... do you want to go ahead and read Steve's? It's not coming up for me.
Well, it's self-praise is no praise, is all I'm saying. Steve said, iceberg, great drawing.
There it is.
So, I just don't want to be arrogant about it.
Well, you love
a lot of compliment. Yeah. Okay, good. Right, so let's move on and let's work out how we can apply this to you. So let's have a little exercise. We'll have a look at an Olympic athlete, right? We're going to look at what are some of the characteristics of a pro athlete. You know, and a pro athlete is just an example of someone who's gone professional in whatever, in an area. This happens to be sport, right? Happens to be athletics. But you can go pro in business, right? It's no different. Just the vehicle's different, you know. So you can go pro in business, you can go pro in life, you can go pro in your relationships.
Doodles.
What?
Doodles. I was referring to artwork.
Yes. Masterpiece. So what are some of the characteristics of a pro athlete? Type in the chat box. Let's keep these coming. Type a bunch in. What are some of the characteristics of a pro athlete? What would they do daily? You know, let's imagine your kid or somebody like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old to ask you your advice and say, you know, I really want more for my life. I really want to, you know, how do I become better at sport? I'm just so passionate about sport. How can I become a professional athlete? You'd know some of the answers, right? You would absolutely know some of the answers. What are they? So keep them coming in. Dan, if you can read out a few of those.
Yeah, sure. Margaret's coming with train every day. Charlie's coming with train, rest, learn, immerse. Just waiting for a couple more to come in. Personally, obviously myself, I would always say diet's going to be a big influencer, and exercise. Train focused. Thank you, Nicola. Totally agree with that. Just waiting for a couple more to come in.
Discipline, get coaches. Thank you, Lyndon. Very true. Eat well, sleep well, think good thoughts, keep positive. Keep positive. Media. Yes, media is a huge part of our environment. If you watch EastEnders and Emmerdale and rubbish TV that's just dramatic every day, it will impact your belief system. It will impact your mood for sure. Consistent habits, self-belief, have the vision, have the dream, dedication, determination, visualization. So if we know, it's quite easy to work out what pro athletes do. So are we doing those? So how do you want to show up every day? We've already proved that we actually know what it takes to go pro, don't we? We need to learn, we need to immerse, we need commitment, we need routines, we need rituals, we need to live above the line, we need to train every day, we need coaches, train, rest, learn, immerse. Guys, you came up with so many brilliant brilliant things to do to become successful. So what daily rituals could you commit to? Type in the chat box. Type in the chat box. What are some of the daily rituals you could commit to? Going pro in life is no different to going pro as an athlete, right? Athletes aren't part-time athletes and part-time slobs. They don't turn up to be an athlete 9 till 5 and then go and eat crap food in the evening and just binge on crap TV and negative TV. When they choose to be champions, they're champions 24/7. So if we choose to go pro in business, then we need to choose that life. We need to choose to become that person. So Dan, you want to read out a few more of these?
Yeah, sure thing.
What are some of the things that people said they could do?
Lyndon's come with already quite a few there. Thanks, Lyndon. So we've got daily meditation, daily exercise, planning my week and day. Charlie's come in with live with a disciplined mindset. Margaret's come in reading, meditation, workout, and juicing. We've got Laura, thank you, planning for every day. Bed by 10 p.m. each day. Again from Lyndon. So lots of very good ones here. End goal by Nicola. There's another one.
Cracking. And what about Dan? Maybe you can, because I know there's something you've done a lot of work on recently. And what is you talked to me about sort of habits and keystone habits. What if you could share with the guys a couple of things that you consider keystone habits for yourself, and what the difference is between like a habit or a ritual and a keystone?
I think there's certain things that are going to allow us to be able to complete our day, complete our week. And whilst we'd like to be able to get everything in, sometimes it's just not possible. Life doesn't always allow us. I believe you've got to keep it loose. I've got a 3.5-year-old boy who tends to come into our bed at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's quite difficult to get that sleep when you're getting kicked in the head. But I still focus myself so that throughout my week, it's important that a few things that I have to do. One of them is my 5-minute journal, and I try to do it first thing in the morning. I wake up a bit early, but I make sure it happens one point in the day. My daily exercise, and another factor for me is massive, is some interaction with nature every single day, even if it's just a walk, or we're lucky here in Dubai, the sea's right here, with a quick jump in the sea, but some interaction. These are kind of my have-tos to make myself to have a success.
Cool. Yeah, and so like some of these, if we can't always do all the habits, we find these keystone ones. Like for me, like a keystone one is that when I do that, everything else falls into place. For me, it's bedtime. If I get my bedtime right, it means I sleep correctly. It means like my whole morning runs fine. If I miss that, it's like a domino effect. So we don't always need to get everything right, but we need to identify the couple of things. And like Dan says, for him, it's his daily journal, like his 5-minute journal, being in touch with nature and exercise. I like the keystone ones. Like there are other ones that I know Dan does on a daily basis, but those are the keystone ones. So good, thanks for that. Maybe read out a couple more. What have we got in here? Daily plan, daily meditation, daily exercise, plan my week. Live with a disciplined mindset. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some ideas. Now, before I'm going to just back up actually, so you don't read that just yet. Before I go into this, I was telling Dan a story earlier where, again, there was an event in Australia, and I was doing it with Robbo, Andrew Roberts, and he was talking about rituals and daily rituals and what what would a super successful person do on a daily basis to make sure they got the big long-term goal, right? How do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. The key to success is daily, simple daily little things. So what are those simple daily things? And Robert goes off into this list of meditating and walking down to the water in the morning and, journaling and just spending time with his thoughts and planning the day. And, a lady put her hand up after about 15 minutes, was like, Robbo, I have an autistic son, and my morning is just full, and you've just described an hour-and-a-half routine of what to do in the morning, and I've made the same mistake with a couple of clients before, as a single guy, I have the time to do it. So what I'm going to share with you now is best case scenario. Right? It's something to work towards, and this is just what I do, and I'm not saying this is right, but I think you can pick what you like from it. And what I find with clients is over time, when they start, maybe, if you've got 2-3 kids, we have one client who her morning ritual will be 3 minutes in bed visualizing her day. That's it, because that's all she has time for. Like Dan says, he's getting kicked in the head in the morning. I don't have that. So some of these we need to commit to anyway, but we need to find time in our diary, perhaps even later in the day. Like if you're a serious business owner and you say, I don't have time to plan the day, well, then we need to do that when we get to work, or maybe we need to do some of these rituals when we're at work, because they are that important. So here's sort of ideal scenario. Right, so wake up on the first alarm, no snoozing, followed by a 20-minute meditation. Why is meditation so important? Meditation is like a shower for your brain. We have so much noise coming into our lives on a daily basis that the discipline to be able to control our thoughts is absolutely huge. Oprah Winfrey's a massive fan. Was it Hugh Jackman? Steve Jobs was. Like, the ability to keep a clear mind in a busy society is just a huge, huge skill. So if you haven't done meditation before, Dan and I use an app called Calm, C-A-L-M. The first part of it's free. It's worth checking out, right? And you won't like it to start with probably because your brain will be all over the place, but that's the whole point of doing it. Meditation is a practice, not like a computer game level to complete, right? Visualize in the morning. Like athletes do, they visualize their outcomes so that their subconscious brain becomes so used to the idea of it that it just starts believing it's real, and you'll start being able to act like it's real, right? So the fears and the limiting beliefs fall away. Then have a shower. There's obvious benefits to that. And then in an ideal world, green juice, and then read my desire statement, which I'll come on to quickly in a minute. We talked about that before. I do affirmations. An affirmation is an incantation, if you want to call it that, but it's affirming a belief that you want to have. So we talked before about there being a gap between the person you are now and the person you want to become. We're always growing, right? There's nothing wrong with who you are now. Whether it's a seed, whether it's a stem, or whether it's a fully grown flower, at every stage it's perfect. But in nature, things are either growing or dying. There's no middle ground. So I choose the growth part, right? So an affirmation, if we know we're short on a belief, for example, we may do an affirmation of saying, I am a great leader. If that's a gap for you, you might go, I'm a great leader. I think positive thoughts. I'm super resourceful. I always live above the line. Those are affirmations that we can read on a daily basis. And then journal my thoughts, where I process thoughts that have happened. I never reread my journals, and I include some gratitudes. There's an amazing little app that Dan mentioned called 5 Minute Journal, which really is, it goes on your phone, it is a 5-minute journal, and it just starts with what's 3 things you're grateful for, what 3 things are you going to do to make today great, 1 affirmation like I am, and you've got to write something in there, and then at the end of the day, to bookend the day, you look back on your day and go, what was great about today, and what could I have done to make today better? I think, Dan, do you remember how much that app cost? Did we have to pay for it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's like $5 or something.
Right.
$5 US, but I swear by it. It's a great little tool, and it can be as quick or as long as you want it to be. So if you've got the time to commit a little longer and you can go into it, they actually support you with emails on how to go into it deeper, access different areas. So I absolutely recommend it 100%.
Nice, cool. Yeah, really good point. And you can set up notifications as well, so it will remind you to do your journal. Good. So again, if you want to get great at something, you have to have a growth mindset. I believe everybody should have the mindset of becoming an expert in what they are. If you're in sales, become an expert at sales. Over time, it's, again, not a video game that you can complete, but you've got to be growing. Your income and your business will grow at the same rate that you grow. For me, that's a book a week, right? Just, again, to find that no extra time, maybe in the car or at the gym or whatever, it's just vital to education every day so that you can grow, increase your skills, increase your value. Then look at my weekly planner and my goals. I run through my plan for the day, and I only touch my emails and my phone and technology once all that's done. I then have a little check, what exercise am I doing today? It's not always full-on exercise. I've been injured recently, so I've been pretty lazy. But sometimes just a walk is exercise, right? But if it doesn't go in the diary, it doesn't get done. And then finish the day with a meditation and plan. So I know that may seem a little intense, and I know, some of you may look at that and go, how the hell would I put that into my day? You don't have to, right? You absolutely don't have to. But you just need to pick and choose what's going to work for you. So one of the things I mentioned was the desire statement. This is something we covered in a previous webinar, but I just wanted to show how important this was and how much this can change your life. Right? If you don't tell your brain what to look out for, if you don't tell your brain what you want from life, then how can it find it? How can it look out for that? Right? We've had this experience where when we decide what car we're going to buy, we start seeing it everywhere. And that's because of a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which is our brain's antenna, which scarily filters out 99.9% of potential information every second and just focuses on what we tell it to focus on, which is why when we focus on negative stuff, we see negative stuff. When we have this story, oh, I don't want that, I don't want that, oh, staff always pay, staff are always a pain in the arse, and I can never find the right person to hire. Like, we just see more evidence for that because that's what we told our brain to look out for. So it's really clear, it's important that we get clear on what we want out of our year, and then we turn it into a story and we write it in the first person. For those of you that missed a previous webinar, the easy way to do this is to split your life into a few different areas: career, social, family, health, personal growth, attitude, you know, a bunch of areas like that on the wheel of life. And for each section, you write down what you don't want. So don't have this story of, oh, I don't know what I want. Okay, well, if you don't know what you want, let's first look at what you don't want, and then let's flip it and make it positive. So if you have a don't want list which says, oh, I don't want to be poor, oh, I don't want to have to worry about bills, oh, I don't want to always be thinking about money, I don't want to always have stress of money, right? It's important that we shift those into positives to work out what it is we actually do want then. And those become the basis and the framework for creating this desire and intention statement. So to me, this desire statement is essential in the morning. Like I'd say, that's probably the most important, right? Because it keeps us completely on track of where we're going and helps reaffirm the person that we want to become. Some of my clients do this on the bus to work. In Sydney, Bruce, you know, takes the bus over the bridge to work in the morning, so he reads this on the bus. Some people read this, I think Richard reads it on the train on his iPhone. He's got it on his iPhone as a document. Some people stick it on the outside of the shower, so that when you're in the shower you can just read that, or they stick it on the mirror, so when they're brushing their teeth they can read it, which are all great things. Like if you've got, you know, kids in a hectic household, then we need to find little shortcuts of how we can make these happen. So let's have a little recap. What's been most valuable so far? What did you get out of the rituals section? Type in the chat box. I remember I was chatting to Dan, and we were sort of joking that, you know, again, I don't have kids, but for those who do, you know, and you're going off on this family holiday and it takes, you know, a military operation to pack the car, and, you know, you're like putting one kid in a booster seat and you're putting another in another seat, and then you know, there's noises, complaining, moaning, somebody's forgotten this, and it's just hectic, right? And then, you know, you finally shut the passenger door for your wife and everything's calm. And it's that walk round from the passenger door back to the driver's door that is his holiday. You know, that is the only moment of complete peace and quiet, just the 10 seconds that it takes to walk from the passenger door all the way back around to the driver's side. So, what did you get so far? Dan?
Yes, so let's go straight for the top. Barty's come in with, loves the idea of sticking the desire statement in the shower tip. Charlie's come in with a daily journal. Lyndon, what we got there? Looking at the key rituals of the day/week. Steve's come in with a few ideas on what I can add to my daily rituals. Fantastic. Karen, I need to get back into doing my rituals. I've let them slip due to tiredness. As long as you're focused to get back into them, Karen, then that's a great step forward. Margaret, have to give myself a kick up the bop. Get up earlier and get on with all these rituals. So yeah, some good ones there.
Okay. Good. So hopefully some of you now think, right now I need to go and put in some daily rituals. I need to go and, you know, I understand the concept of being that person each day. So how do I go about implementing that? And as we know from the last ritual, your brain is not there to make you successful. In fact, very much the opposite. Your chimp brain will do whatever it can to keep you the same. It does not want to do anything new. So one of the ways that we trick our brain when we want to try something new is we've got to trick it to think that what we're about to do is impermanent. Right? It's the difference between buying a jumper and trying a jumper on. Right? If you try a jumper on, your brain goes, oh, you can always try to take it off. Once you've bought it, they're like, oh, we've got to live with this now. So we use something called the 4-week challenge. Okay. So the 4-week challenge is basically a way of telling the brain that what we're about to do is impermanent. Okay, so imagine January 1st, you go, right, from now on, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. bearing in mind you've hardly been in the last 6 months, but you go, no, January 1st, from now on, 3 times a week. And your chimp brain's like, are you kidding me? Come on, because there's no end in sight. It's like, what, forever? We're now just going to go 3 times a week? This seems like a massive, massive task, massive effort, big, big change. But if we can trick our brain and make an agreement with our brain, with our chimp, and be like, hey, look, I think I'm going to have a little experiment over the next 4 weeks. I actually prefer experiment to challenge, but we go with challenge. I'm going to have a little experiment over the next few weeks. Like I'm going to go to the gym minimum of twice a week, just for the next 4 weeks. Is that okay? And your chimp goes, that seems reasonable. That's okay. So by the time we get to 4 weeks, you then have a choice. You can keep the habit or you can let go of the habit. But the chimp won't rebel, because by that stage you've done it for 4 weeks and it's got used to it, so it's cool with it. So this is this is just an example that I did with a client last year. She's a professional athlete and she was retiring from professional sport, so we wanted to create new habits for her, and we looked at what the keystone habits were for her and we put them in first. So you can just see we put in simple little goals. We didn't put 100 things in. I would actually go less than this normally, but you can imagine with a professional athlete, they're pretty disciplined anyway. So for her, it was meditation, education, getting the bedtime right, getting the wake-up time right, weekly planner, daily planner, and journal. On the right, we weighted them to see what we would set them as goals, and then this got printed out and put on the fridge. So one goes into physical copy, gets printed on the fridge, and the other stays on the computer so that we can actually tally these up. And there's actually another tab behind this that sort of adds it all up for you. So this is just one of the 4 weeks. You type this in and it repeats for the next 4 weeks. This just gives you a little 4-week challenge, which is the easiest way to build a new habit. You're doing one at the moment, aren't you, Dan? What have you? What are a couple of things really quickly that you put on there?
Yeah, I think we've covered this a couple of times. What have I got on there? So I've got 5-minute journaling. Make sure I do that. I've got once a week I have to eat vegetarian. What else have I got on my weekly challenge? Ensuring that I exercise. Oh yes, of course. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I haven't got it in front of me. I have exactly as you've said. I've got it at home, sitting on the side, so that I can look at it every single morning and every single night. So yeah, connect to 2 friends, of which I've done 1 already this week. I'm happy to say, another one still to come. And yeah, I don't know. You haven't mentioned Blake, but for me, part of one of the greatest things about going through it is not only what you get done, but also the satisfaction of ticking it off and seeing what you've achieved on a daily and a weekly basis. That's as much satisfaction. Yeah, massive. So that's a real good thing from my side.
Makes the chimp very, very happy. Good. All right, cool. So if you want a copy of that, the 4-week challenge, just drop an email to sensei@blakesargent.com. Dan and I actually just came back from a bit of a recce, a bit of a reconnaissance mission out to Japan, and Dan's wife's Japanese. And, you know, so through some of her elder family friends, they know some very old Japanese people who still master the art of samurai, and we got a tour around there, and fortunately they also know some sensei, which is, you know, sensei is the Japanese for word for master. That's right, Dan? Yeah?
Hi!
Hi! And we're very privileged to say that we've managed to convince one of the sensei to do some work with us, and to help us with some of our accountability, because some of the beliefs of the samurai are discipline. You know, there's such a disciplined culture, so we wanted to take some of that discipline and help our clients with that. So we've got a guy on board now who he doesn't take excuses ever, but he just holds people accountable. So if you want the 4-week challenge, please send him an email, sensei@blakesargent.com, and he'll send it back to you. So that brings us to the close. So type 2 things in the chat box. What's been most valuable and what's your commitment? There is no point learning stuff if you don't go and do anything about it. I say that because I've been so guilty of that in the past. You know, nowadays I learn something, I go and do it, because otherwise I realise it's wasted. So a bit of public accountability, type in the chat box what's been most valuable so far and what's your commitment. What's your commitment? Type those in. I'll just quickly answer. Steve asked the question, what do the numbers in goal mean? When you receive it in the 4-week challenge, it comes completely blank. So you need to set a goal. So if one of my goals is to meditate daily, for example, or 5 days a week, I might put a goal of 5, right? And every day that I do it, I get a point. If exercise is really important to me and I say, I'm going to exercise once this week, like, because you've never exercised before, you might give that a goal of 10 points, you know. If I do it, I get 10 points. If I don't do it, I get none. So you need to set the goals that will be relevant to you and weighted towards what's important to you. The goal is then, over the 4 weeks, to hit 80% of the target. Not perfection, but hit 80% of the target. So this is not about chucking 15 things in there. Just put 4 things in there that would be a great step. Because then after the first 4-week challenge, you can do another and then another. And imagine the habits you could build over a year. So please don't try and do them all at once.
No, I agree with that.
So listen to these. Yeah.
Sorry to butt in. I agree with that with regards to don't overcommit. Do something that is challenging but achievable. And I'm already into my end of the 2nd week, 3rd week, I think, and I'm really looking forward to next month's, because you can just step it up another level, but incremental changes, bit at a time. So yeah, please, that's my suggestion to you.
Nice. Okay, so we've got a commitment to explore and express my inner child. Very cool. To review rituals and complete the Flip Your Life program. Send Sensei an email. Great. Good. The value is the be and the do and the have. It's incredibly powerful. Great. Committed to doing a desire statement and a 4-week challenge. Committed to do the 4-week challenge and my desire statement. Fantastic. Good. So look, guys, let's leave it there for today. If you have any questions, type them in. But over years of working out what it is that successful people do to become successful, one thing I can say for sure is that it's got to be a regular thing. It has to be daily. It has to be your persona. You have to become that person, right? And the way to do that is on a daily basis. It's not putting some effort in once a week. Just like if you want to be really fit and healthy, you've got to eat correctly each day. You've got to exercise each day. Like, it's going back to the basics that really make the difference. So rather than thinking of, what major effort, what major master plan do I need to do to become unbelievable, just look at the really, really basic things, right? Because I don't think any of us could currently say, yeah, I'm doing all of those things correctly every day. I'm really living my best self and doing the simple things correctly each day. So let's start there. So I'm going to leave you with a final thing, right? Some of you may know Jim Rohn, and I'm going to read this out to you, right? And it's just a little piece which is called "Success is Easy, but So is Neglect," and it's by Jim Rohn. And I think this encompasses a lot of what we've been talking about today. So Jim says, people often ask me how I became successful in that 6-year period of time while many of the people I knew did not. The answer is simple. The things I found to be easy to do, they found to be easy not to do. I found it easy to set the goals that could change my life. They found it easy not to do. I found it easy to read the books that could affect my thinking and my ideas. They found that easy not to do. I found it easy to attend the classes and the seminars and to get around other successful people. They said it probably really wouldn't matter. If I had to sum it up, I would say what I found to be easy to do, they found to be easy not to do. 6 years later, I'm a millionaire, and they're all still blaming the economy, the government, and company policies. Yet they neglected to do the basic easy things. In fact, the primary reason most people are not doing as well as they could and should can be summed up in a single word: neglect. It's not the lack of money. Banks are full of money. It's not the lack of opportunity. America and much of the free world continues to offer the most unprecedented and abundant opportunities in the last 6,000 years of a recorded history. It is not the lack of books. Libraries are full of books and they are free. It is not the schools. The classrooms are full of good teachers. We have plenty of ministers, leaders, counselors and advisors. Everything we would ever need to become rich and powerful and sophisticated is within our reach. The major reason that so few take advantage of all that we have is simply neglect. Neglect is like an infection. Left unchecked, it will spread throughout our entire system of disciplines and eventually lead to a complete breakdown of a potentially joy-filled and prosperous human life. Not doing the things we know we should do causes us to feel guilty, and guilt leads to an erosion of self-confidence. As our self-confidence diminishes, so does the level of our activity. And as our activity diminishes, our results inevitably decline. And as our results suffer, our attitude begins to weaken. And as our attitude begins the slow shift from positive to negative, our self-confidence diminishes even more, and on it goes. So my suggestion is that when giving the choice of easy to and easy not to, that you do not neglect to do the simple, basic, easy, but potentially life-changing activities and disciplines. So, I will leave you, much like my piece of artwork, with that masterpiece, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. So bye from me.
Sayonara.